Okay. So divination. So it's it's getting that older, darker time of year. Maybe not for us, but for other folks. Traditionally, this is where people turn inwards and start looking to the future. So here we start with a definition. Divination is the practice of seeking knowledge of the future or the unknown through supernatural means. Okay, so it's just a straight out of the dictionary, straight from Oxford languages kind of thing. Okay, so there's tons of different kinds. They've been going on for years. A lot of the words that are used to describe them are actually of a Greek origin. That doesn't necessarily mean that's where they originated from, because they're practiced through many different cultures with many different names. It's just the ones that we know them by right now. We're actually going to start with one called claromancy. So this is from the Greek part of it. This is the lot prophecy. Basically what it means is the casting of lots. So it's the throwing of any, or the casting of any type of object, such as dice, runes, bones, or beans. And I know it's that time of year, when Silence of the Lambs has been on, right? And that scene talks about having a So the funny thing is, so the act of divination using beans is actually fobomancy. And I read that, and the first words I said out of my mouth were "Chianti." I'm like, oh my goodness. But Birch is great with runes and such, and she's going to tell us a little bit about them.
Yeah, so what I mostly work with in divination are the runes. I often do readings for the Grove, like during our full moon drummings for the upcoming month. Also, usually at some of the seasonal festivities, I'll do a reading like for the year, or for the season or what have you. And with runes, I mean, you have sort of a traditional pull where like you take a number of runes. I would usually use 9, and then of course, you would throw them across a space, and then just, you would read in the way that they land what sort of meaning might be drawn from those runes. You can also do, like, some of you probably seen me do like the individual rune pulls, calling upon, and then doing like a 3 rune pull and then reading those 3 runes. But both those, since it does involve lots, or the casting to some degree of runes, that would all fall under claromancy. And you could do similar things with dice. We've got the dice here. You can do it with dominoes. Got those.
Yes. Is the Scrabble tile one similar?
Scrabble tile I think would probably fall under here, most likely. It would be between here and the bibliomancy writing.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you remember we used the Scrabble tiles at Pagan Friday?
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah,
I think it would like fall between those 2.
I know even like the casting of bones. I know for Santeria, is that right?
Yes, Santeria, the casting bones, shells, little pebbles, and they all mean something.
Yeah.
Do they use specific types of bones or any kind of?
Some, again, because it encompasses so many different cultures, some would say yes, some would say no. Again, so this is kind of like high overview.
Yeah, I mean, you could go into a lot of depth on almost any of these different types. Yeah, and
go ahead.
Oh, and even like there's a method of divination that's been used in historical German practices that involves the throwing of spears. And reading the way that the spears land, especially before a battle, as a way of foretelling how the battle is going to go.
So just as a little side thing, so I like to do what I call, penny pinching pagans. So yeah, right. You can afford all those stops and things. But so what's really cool is you get things like this, which this is actually, and funny, Birch looked it up recently. So basically it's like a little mini Jenga from the dollar store, right? So if you burn these, or you use, your pens or whatever, you can draw your runes on here and it becomes your casting, correct? Because it's going to work exactly that way. And frankly, I think what would be funny, me personally, or might be fun rather, is to get a whole set that way, and then do it and actually Jenga them and play a game and see how they fall. See how they fall. I think that would be just like you talk about fun pagan games. I think that would be one of them.
That could be a future pagan game.
It could be, and dice, any kind of dice are gonna work, like, these are literally like Yahtzee dice. It's about the intention you put behind it.
Do you do a lot of numerology with the dice? Like, how do you get the?
I
symbols
don't
of
personally, but some do, again, so this. I'm
Yeah,
trying to
a lot of
take it high
people-
level, So you can dive in, trust me, there's so many rabbit holes
Oh,
you
I
can run
can
down
imagine.
here.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I realized I was doing it, because I'm like, what are these beans and this automatic, yeah, I'm like, wait a minute, I gotta get back to what I was doing,
Yeah,
so. it's-
'Cause
it's
I've
very
even-
easy.
done it with dice. You know that the game War with dice where you throw one hand against the other, like one hand yes, one hand no, and whichever one gets the higher number
Wins, right?
wins. And then you can ask like yes, no questions and throw both dice. So like, I could say, just don't give me a random yes, no question.
Is it gonna rain tomorrow?
Is it gonna rain tomorrow? This hand, yes, this hand, no. It's 3 and 6. So according to the dice, it's not gonna rain tomorrow.
We'll find out, won't we?
But we'll find out, right?
So.
So it's stuff like that.
I hope.
Exactly.
Of course, we're not specifying where it's gonna rain.
This is Florida. This is true.
It's
Tomorrow somewhere, only in my backyard.
in your backyard. No. Is it gonna rain everywhere else? Yes.
Another one, and this one, again, is sticking high level here, so chartomancy, which is paper prophecy, okay? So when you start thinking about paper, it could be, paper cards, maps, charts, playing cards, just regular deck of bicycle cards. Okay, you can do the exact same thing, because they've got the numbers, they have the suits, the 4 suits, not as many as in a tarot deck, but the interesting thing I found is that tarot decks actually originated from a card game, an Italian card game from the 1400s, so in 15th century, and it morphed into the tarot we have today. But the card game itself is actually still played in many places, and even as late as the 1970s, they brought it back. And it was really popular in Europe, everywhere except Italy. And they're doing tournaments, and so it's still actually done today. So it's like Terracini, I believe, was the name of the card game that they're using, but the tarot. And you can see there are a ton of different types, angels, animals, fairy. So it's about what speaks to you and what you can read. The other thing too, so maps and charts. So anything with a pendulum. Right, so we can use a pendulum on a map to find things. So that's also would fall under this. So chartomancy, anything that has to do with paper.
And another one that I often use, if like say you have a library full of books, the close your eyes and grab like random book, random page, first sentence you see.
Exactly, and this would go again with Scrabble tile.
Because it's anything, to do with like written things, specifically maps, cards, all that can fall under paper prophecy.
So the next one being cryptomancy, okay? So. Yep,
Exactly,
and that's exactly
changing
what it is.
the PowerPoint on that.
Yes, I did. So cryptomancy, so hidden prophecies, okay? So the observation of omens, looking for the meaning of things that happen, and it could be birds, animals, it could be the way the wind blows, it could be lightning, it could be the weather, whether it rains on this side or doesn't rain on that side, exactly what does it mean? And oddly enough, things as much as dynasties and huge wars have been decided based on omens.
Yeah.
Will I go to war? Will I not go?
Yeah.
Will I attack from the left or the right based on the way a bird flew that day?
Mhm.
And these are just things that through the years of different cultures, they all practice. It's all called something different, but at the end of the day, we end up with a great book called Good Omens. No, we end up.
The nice and accurate prophecies of Agnes Nutter would fall under this category then.
So the next one would be somatancy. Okay, so this is body prophecy, and actually it's the people palmistry. It's huge on this one. That's where it falls. People can read through, the life or project life through the reading of the palm. There's nephrology, which is the study of the head, you know, the lumps on your head mean this, that, the other thing. That's one that has gotten a bad rap in the past because of the way it's been used. They're looking at the base process. Sure, so yeah, they're looking at the base process, that's what it is. And then this one, again, this is kind of goes with the fava beans. I could not believe this when I read it and I kind of went down a rabbit hole. But rumpology. Rumpology.
Biology,
Rumpology. The butt. There is apparently a divination practice where you can tell from the wrinkles, the creases, the bumps, the dimples, the shape, the size, the whatever. You can do divination based on somebody's bodies.
Okay, I'm not sure I want anybody to read.
Yeah.
You're looking at my hand, doesn't be like, you're looking at my cheek.
Maybe that's what's going on.
Maybe that's what cats practice with each other, that's why they stick the butt in your
Right.
face. Like, see, read my
Cat
thoughts.
started
I think that's a cat, or maybe dogs too, they like.
Yeah, dogs are definitely,
Rumpologist.
But yeah, so I mean, like I said, that's why I'm kind of trying to stay a high level, because there's so many different. When I started going through this topic, it's everything, you know, people will, from the shape of the hands, the shape of the feet, or from the knees, or from this, that, the other thing, it's, people can look to anything. Defines their divination source. So the next one for dowsing. In dowsing, we all know this one, you know, it's about the rods. So it's using a rod or a pendulum for locating items or people. So this one kind of ties into paper as well, because using a pendulum to find the location. But this one, I mean, this was well practiced here in America.
Oh, yeah.
Well practiced.
And then when we were talking about ley lines often feed into this too, because a lot of people use dowsing in order to find and trace the ley lines.
Yes, yes.
And the other useful thing about this, if you like wearing necklaces with a crystal on it, like what I have on today, voila, emergency pendulum.
Yeah.
Just take it off and start following it.
So in the little bit of research I did with this one, the thing I find interesting is mentioned across the location, the dowsing sites is mentioned across many different cultures, but no single one actually claims to be the origin or the professor or the, you know, it definitely came from this practice, like tarot, or it definitely came from this, you know. Some we'll get to later, it definitely came from Greek, or it definitely came from Asian influence. This has been very general. To me, almost, I mean.
It's a very simple practice, like you think about it, like old ancient.
Yeah, dowsing for water, I mean, and plus like the needs, like,
Well, dowsing is super.
yeah, and you think about it, every culture in the world needed wells and water.
Water is a basic, yeah, it's a
Basic human needs, so I mean, it could be tens of thousands of years old for all we know.
Yeah, but it's one of the few that actually has no discernible origin. It's just kind of found everywhere about the same time.
Makes you wonder how long humans have been doing it for then.
Yeah, forever, apparently.
You know, I mean, if we've been doing this 10,000 years, we have no record of its origin.
Yeah, right, exactly. So scrying, so this one I've always found very interesting. This is my own personal method of divination. So there's gastromancy, which is like, you know, the crystal ball. Okay, so you know, everybody knows about gazing into the crystal ball. There's mirrors, so captomancy, so black mirror is used for that. Okay. Hydromancy, so water, pyromancy, fire, geomancy, earth. We can use all of these things. There's even I didn't find the word for air, but it is there. People use
Reading the
smoke,
wind.
reading the wind. People use smoke, smoke patterns, cloud patterns. So for this, I mean, black mirrors to me are fascinating because the reflection is just as clear, but it's not. So it allows for transfer. Is what it is. So scrying to me is more along the lines of transfer. It's self-induced. It's staring at the one point or the lack of focal point. That's where one thing fire is very good for, because it moves constantly, but it's unpredictable. So you really start to not focus on the outside when you focus in. So that's where scrying works particularly well. Personally, I actually had it's black glass, so it works both ways as a mirror. It also works for water stride, so when you catch water in there, it does the same thing, and that adds an additional layer, because not only do you have the reflection from the glass. But then the water adds another layer to it, and you see we have extra things to move. So. That's my preference. Everybody has their own. Necromancy. This is one that really just gets the bad rap. It gets the bad. Hey, it makes a great movie stuff. It really does. And I haven't just been through all those Day of the Dead, Evil Dead Rise, you know, the zombie movies are all out there. So, but necromancy is speaking to the dead. Now, most frequently it involves using a corpse as well, but to speak to some of that practice. In Egyptian burials, Greek burials, and many you find that they're placing food, they're placing weapons, they're placing other things in there as well. That's the way of communicating. That's the way of giving them the next life. That's they find scrolls put in there, so messages. It's the same. It is a form of necromancy. It's the same thing. It's communicating with the dead. This time of year, especially when we've just past Halloween and Samhain and the veil spinner, and we spend more time thinking about and speaking to our loved ones. And yes, they actually have the opportunity, I feel, to speak back. They can at any time, but I feel that this time is just passed, it's just closing is the easiest time of year for us to do so.
Our silent supper that we have solemn is a very basic form of necromancy.
Yes, so it allows the silence. You're doing an action that you've done many, many times with your beloved dead. You're enjoying a meal, thinking about them the times you've had it. It's communication that much easier.
My friend whose father just passed last week, I couldn't come. She found out from his aide that when he woke up that morning, he told the aide that he saw Sandra and his wife, who had died 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. And their 60th anniversary was like a few days before he passed. And he said she came and wished him a happy anniversary. He was dead within a few hours after that.
So that, I mean,
So,
so you guys do that,
And
right?
then she came and called him.
Yeah.
She didn't want him to go alone.
She didn't want him to go alone, and you know, it's beautiful.
It is a big- But this is one that definitely gets the bad rap. But like I said, it makes some great movies.
Yeah.
Wes Craven's we had fortune on that. So neuromancy. So this is one that we could definitely point to origins on. So neuromancy is it's called a holy prophecy, and so this has a lot to do with animal sacrifice and reading the innards, the entrails, the kidneys, the liver, the intestines. And again, this is something. It points to a specific culture. Usually, it was a male-dominated culture. They're usually going to war. They could be just trying to find an answer to something, and it involves taking ritualistic animals and sacrificing them and removing the insides. So, not something necessarily practiced a whole lot today, but it would not surprise me to find that it still is. I firmly believe it is still. Yeah. So, again, not for everybody. Let's talk about tasseography. This one's very common. So tea leaves, coffee grounds, wine, what you find in your wine cellars. That's maybe not so much these days, but what they do tell you, like anytime you're going to small batch wine tastings, they tell you if there's things in the bottom of your glass, they're wine diamonds, and be happy about it. And basically, it's crystals and things that form in the wine. Plus, there's also sediments. You think about the mead. We've all had mead. We've seen mead. There's a little sediment in the bottom of it. The same type of thing. So any of those smaller batches, they're not filtered out as much. So the act of drinking it, and this reading, looking for pictures, photography, or messages in the dregs, basically. So we're down to the dregs. It's not a bad thing. It's going to tell us about the future. It's another one that's super, super fun.
Yeah, and what's nice about like when you drink, even like the act of drinking the tea, it can like put your mind in such a calm state that by the time you finish drinking the tea, you are that much more receptive. It's like you got to have the full process. You drink the tea, you put your energy into the tea while you drink it, And then by the time you get to the bottom, you're ready to read and see what's there.
So this next one I found really interesting, because I'd heard of some of it, but it made more sense as I was reading through it. So ectalis, which is the art of reading the splatters of molten substances.
Okay.
So wax, I've always known about wax, it's like, okay, so, you know, when a candle burns or when wax spills, then you can see what the patterns are, and maybe reading the future from there. But then it also went into things like lead, or any type of a metal. I'm like, oh wow, this could get really interesting, and you know, just the random patterns that develop, and then also things like lava. So this would go back to geomancy almost, because lava comes to the surface in molten film. And resolidifies, and I know maybe not so much Florida, because we don't have a whole bunch of volcanoes and stuff. But you know, some of those islands still molten. Yeah, they're still molten, just in a different way.
Yeah.
But Hawaii, places like that, in the Pacific Northwest, we do have lava, we do have molten coming to the surface. Obsidian, something that, you know, is used frequently, and bronze is actually a product of that. So it's interesting when once I started another rabbit hole. Yeah. Needless to say, this entire slide was full of rabbit holes. Yeah, we have a whole
Yeah.
warning going on around it, but that one to me was just another like, I wonder how. And I would, you know, love to be able to go out and try those. But that opens us up to the discussion part, and we have high hopes there that Birch may possibly
Do a reading?
Do a reading,
Yes.
Okay, well,
What's
here, let me go through the chat.
absolutely.
Please. So Shine says, I do bones.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's fantastic.
That is so cool. Carolina said, I have rune cards.
Okay.
Shine said, sounds interesting. I haven't tried rune card. I also do astro dice. I like the unusual divination methods. They are kind of cool. Like, there's all kinds of things you would not expect. And any of this, you could easily go into a whole entire lesson. We're just giving you the overview in case there's a nice rabbit hole you want to dive into.
We are coming to that study time of the year.
The question, I bought a witch runes that I was attracted to, but I don't understand the symbols. What could I do to connect myself with those runes and understand them? So Carlina, what I would suggest, take them one at a time the way you would any rune set. It's a slow build process when you're working with runes, because there's so many meanings to them as you continue to go through that process. So start with like one a day and just, you know, get to know each rune over the course of a day, and just slowly build up to the point where you're familiar with them. It's going to take time, but it's a really, really good project if you want to study divination, to just take that time and let it work with you. And if you have a one deck already, that's perfect. Because as you work with the deck, it will come to know you, and you will come to know the deck.
The other, just for general knowledge, I've had, so, you know, they say programming is taking over everything, but Google Lens, so it's an app you can put on your phone. So Google Lens, if you take a picture of your card for the day and tell it to search using that picture, it will pull up, and again, you have to be careful about everything you read on the internet, you don't know this, you just weird places, but it will pull up more information about that particular image. And it might actually give you a connection or a thread to find a connection to a deeper meaning for yourself. Because even though many runes have a pretty solid meaning because they've been used that way for years and years and years, occasionally you'll find it means something else to you. It's not a bad thing, it's just a different thing.
Yeah, and a lot of them, they just have so many meanings.
Yes.
That you might resonate, like, you know, take a rune like Kenos, which is usually torch, but it can be fire. But it's also ulcer and healing in the same sense of it illuminates something that's dark. In this case, it illuminates something that would otherwise be dark inside your body because it would be buried under the skin. So, you know, sometimes when I pull Kenos, I get fire, but other times I get, okay, you're hiding something. What's hiding? What are we not seeing? You know, so you kind of do that, and then Shine said you can meditate to focus and or talk to your spirit guide or any angels you connect and work with. Just looking at the symbols, understand what it means. He was helpful. Yep. Always go with your gut feeling, read your tools. Absolutely. Even if you read way differently from someone else, you see what's correct for you.
Yep, China's exactly, he's dead on.
And then Carly knows that saying I won't be able to wear a bathing suit. I'm guessing that was with Rumpology. What type of tea? I think any type of tea, I think, yeah. Any
Better sleep tea.
Bag.
You don't go back.
Yeah, any kind of loose leaf tea is good. Because you want to be able to have something on the bottom to read it. If you have a tea bag, you can pour it out like Shine is saying here. You might be able to open a tea bag, but they're so small, that's a lot hard to read. I do not recommend using loose leaf willow bark tea because you will accidentally drink some of the bark and the bark does not taste good.
Thank you.
So I personally, when I get bored,
Well, be cautious about, willow is actually, willow bark is the basis for aspirins.
yes,
So you do have to, you have to know what you're drinking. Or what
With
you're using
what?
for tea.
well, yeah, you
Be very
cannot
careful.
take willow bark at the same time as you're taking aspirin or Advil
Yeah.
because you will double your dosage.
Mhm.
But but you can do one or the other. Like I tend to get better results from willow bark than I do from
That's 'cause you're
Advil
a tree.
because I'm a tree.
And it's a natural product, not a.
Yeah,
pharmaceutical.
and there's a spell I can say over it for healing that I can't use for Advil.
It's the candy coated.
They're blessed with that.
It works amazingly well.
Yeah.
And when I fell outside the house that day and my
Yes.
hands were all swollen, she made me willow bark tea and my hands stayed swollen, but it didn't hurt.
There you go.
That's because we did the spell over it.
It's.
The spell, by the way,
Yes.
you put the willow bark in and you say nurturing willow, healing bark, help my pain to soon depart. And you keep repeating that while you stir the honey into the tea, because it also really needs honey or it gets bitter. So you just keep repeating, nurturing willow, healing bark, help my pain to soon depart until the honey is dissolved, and then you drink it, and then the spell enhances the tea.
Absolutely.
Any more comments?
That was it for the comments. All right, do we want some runes?
Yeah.
Please.
Yes, please.
All right, we got,
Divination. Let's do it.
yes. And then if anyone else has a favorite divination method that's up here, you can talk to whoever owns the deck or whatever, and maybe you can do a reading too. We've got all kinds of oracle decks, runes, tarot.
Yeah, don't wait till them.
If anyone knows how to read dominoes,
That sounds cool. I mean,
I don't know how to read dominoes, but if someone wants to Google it real quick. Google is very wise.
Yeah, see, I would imagine numerology would be into that.
I think so. I think, yeah, it's probably a lot of numerology on the dominoes. Just like with dice, unless again with the dice you do like my simple yes no questions. And then eventually you narrow it down where, okay, it's gonna rain tomorrow. Okay, where is it gonna rain? It's gonna rain,
No.
3 miles away. And then you take your pendulum. And I mean, there's really no reason, if you really want to be certain of something, you can double up. And I know that there's always some question about whether reading for yourself or getting a reading from another person. I know that that's sometimes a big question, like, do you read for yourself? Is it the same versus getting another one? Sometimes if it's like a really important question, it is worth getting a second opinion from someone who's not you. Because you might start filling in the gaps you want to see versus the things that they're actually telling you.
That's a very good one.
What's always amazed me is that I usually pull a card, either these angel oracles or my fairy ones.
And they are always so spot on to whatever happens to be going on that day. You know,
Yeah, and the more you work with a specific deck or a specific set of runes, the better.
that's perfect, really.
You know, even for me, like I know sometimes my runes will like chide me if I seem to be, you know, doing something wrong. They'll be like, no, Birch, do it this way. You know, but the more you work with them, you start to feel their energies. But it is oftentimes good to get a second opinion, especially if you start going like, am I reading too much into this?
Yeah.
Because someone who isn't directly tied to your situation is going to get insights that you might be blocked from receiving.
Right.
Or if you're like in denial, and keep pulling the same ones, and someone else has to be like, look, the same card.
Yeah,
Listen.
listen to me.
But yeah, sometimes it's so much easier to see somebody else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
because you can always redraw for yourself, then you feel bad when someone else is reading like, oh, thanks for my message.
exactly. So
Yeah.
All right.
So I'm gonna do a 3 rune poll here. Past, present, future, calling upon the 3 Nords, Uller, Urhandi, and Skuld. To get our 3 rune poll. All right, so across here, first rune offered up is Thurisaz. Thurisaz is also known as Thorn. This is Thor's rune. Among its meanings are protection. In particular, of course, we think about Thor, the best protection is a good solid donk to your enemy's head. So that is very much a rune, but it's a very protecting your home, protecting yourself, and not being afraid to stand up for yourself and keep things safe. Yes, exactly like that, Poppy. The next one that came up here is I was and I have been together a lot this last week. I was is a rune of transformation. It also its closest match in the tarot, I would say, in my experience, is the Death card, because it deals very much with, or the Hangman, because it's the Hangman in the sense that it, as I was and Yggdrasil are linked, Yggdrasil is the gallows tree where Odin hung himself. It's also the tree that connects all the worlds, including the worlds of the living and the dead. So it again has very much that sense of transformation, change, oftentimes one that involves giving up something that you might have been clinging to that is no longer serving you. And again, when you put things together, like you put together Thurisaz and I was, oftentimes it can mean in order to protect yourself, you know, emotionally, psychologically, or otherwise, sometimes you have to either undergo that transformation or be willing to accept that loss. And that was why I kind of reacted to when Hagalaz appeared. Because Hagalaz kind of gets a bad rap in the rune world. Some people think this is not a nice rune. The thing with this rune is this is the equivalent of the Tower card. It means things are going to start over.
Destruction.
It might really in the next few minutes while everything is falling apart around you. But in the long run, it's going to lay the groundwork for something new to come to you. And I'm going through some personal stuff right now, where, you know, a lot of this does apply to me personally. And so sometimes you have to look at these cards when you're doing something related to yourself, like this one I was open to it for myself as well. After the day I had, and I'm like, okay, you know, sometimes you just have to accept that, you know, you gotta be willing to protect, to change. And yeah, things might not look so pretty in the short term, but you've got to trust that potential for the long term. And put together across all three, it's like, okay, that's all right. You know, in tarot, it'd be like getting swords with death and tower. Those of you who are tarot readers, it'd be like looking at that, like, okay,
That would be
Knight of Swords, death, tower. I'd be like,
Well then. Buckle up.
It's a nice way of saying buckle up, hard out, right?
Yeah.
yep.
So does anyone online or that's present here have a specific question that would like Birch to pull some runes for you?
Yeah,
I'll take one.
okay,
General, beneath past, present, future,
okay.
or whatever called, yeah.
All right. We'll do another three rune for you.
Alright, down, good, down. Good, good job. Sometimes you gotta bribe them. You get them big, you gotta bribe them.
I know get her she does. Can't you see she's starving?
Is that it? Is that it? She's like, where'd you go?
Behave longer.
Okay. Well, yours is a much happier pull. So your first rune is Kenas. This is the same I was talking about earlier, where this is a rune that relates to insight and illumination. It may refer to a situation that's been building that has needed to have a light shined upon it, or something that was otherwise unclear is now becoming more apparent. Second is Uruz. Uruz is the rune of the wild oryx. It relates both to your inner primal self and the strength that you can draw from it. In that sense, it's also oftentimes a rune of change or shaking things up, but it's where you are drawing upon your inner vitality, your inner strength to meet those challenges and shake things up a bit. Yeah, if you think about aurochs, you know what those are?
The
The giant bulls that,
Yeah.
with the massive long horns. Yeah, those guys. And then the final rune pull is Sawilo. Sawilo is, of course, the sun rune. It relates both to the solar energy, but also your own individual willpower. Where Sawilo comes in, it's, again, you want to take control of something. So with these three runes, you know, it definitely seems to be saying something to you about there's a situation that either has needed or is getting a light shined upon it. You can meet it if you rely upon yourself and your inner strength and trust your willpower to meet whatever comes.
Thank you.
Anybody online?
Yes, me.
Okay. All right, Carolina.
Okay, I want you, something general. Could be love, money.
Okay. So a general reading.
Uh-huh.
Okay. You have a general reading too. Thank you.
He really wants to play with Kitty.
Okay, so I have 3 for you. The first one is Uruz again. So again, that's referring, like I was saying, to inner vitality, inner strength, being able to call upon and pull that up within yourself to confront, to meet a situation. And then this one was, there are a few runes that were all like competing for part 2. The one that won out ended up being Hagalaz again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But like I said, it's not necessarily always a bad thing. It just means something might have to change or clear away to make room for what is coming. And the third one is Jera. Jera is the rune of the year, of the seasons. And what this one really refers to is, you know, that passage of time where each thing comes into its own as it happens. And it's good to be able to open your mind to meet what's coming to you, because there may be a harvest spiritually or emotionally or financially in your future. But you want to make sure, especially with those first 2 runes, that you're preparing yourself, you know, mentally and physically for whatever is going to be coming to you, because there are going to be things in your future for you to harvest.
Okay, good. Thank you.
That is good.
Yeah, so that
That's a good
actually,
reading.
Yeah.
that actually,
It'll work out.
yeah,
Something good coming your way.
yep, something good her way, just be ready for it. Anyone want to do anything with, you guys want to do anything with oracle cards? Or we go with runes?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Awesome.
That was very cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, does anyone else have a particular favorite? I mean, I've talked about mine,
No, I like the traditional tarot.
traditional too.
Yeah, I'm not real good at, I was. When many decades ago. I got, that's what threw me off this path for a few decades, is because I was really good at it. And I was so good at it, scared the living hell out of me. Because, I mean, I just didn't know enough of what I was doing.
Right.
And when I was getting the kind of results that I was getting, it was just terrifying. Because it was like, I'm tapping into something that I'm really not,
Yeah, you just weren't prepared.
I just wasn't prepared for it. But now I've started, you know, I have 2 tarot decks, and one that I am kind of cultivating now, it's under my pillow.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get my energy of its into match.
No, it's understandable. I brought my tarot deck with me. It is like, its box is completely beat up. I've had this tarot deck literally since I was like a wee baby sapling witch. It was one of the very first items I bought when I was fresh out of college and really starting to dig into my path. It has been all over the place with me. It joined me in the Peace Corps. It followed me to Florida.
It's pocket size, no?
It's pocket size. It was called Tarot to Go, and I bought it at Barnes and Noble. And I was like, this is perfect.
You know what's funny is like today when I was getting ready about things to collect, I'm like, dang, you know, I should go to Barnes and Nobles and get one of those little pockets.
Yeah.
I had no time to get there, but I'm just like, you know, I don't need a perfect example. You don't need the super fancy stuff.
No, literally, this thing travels with me in my purse. So if I ever need an emergency reading and I don't have my runes with me, I will probably have my purse.
The tarot purists will probably hate me, but I have an app. I just have an app And it's super like badly translated, it works. When I need it, I'm just like card of the day, I didn't pull it at home, let's go.
That's
You know,
fantastic. Who's after everything?
millennial witchcraft.
100%.
That's a whole other subject right there.
Yeah. Cyber witchcraft. There we go, it's kind of thing I call it.
Say, like for me, going to my personal life, scrying, it's about, not so much for other people, I use it personally. Because it's a way, again, of unfocus to focus. And I find that too, even with. When you read through the omens, they're gonna lead you to do this or do that. What I find is that it allows you to clear your mind enough to ignore. The outside stimulus. To see what's really on the inside. So back to the point of, when you pull the same one over and over again, and you're like, that can't be right. And it takes somebody else to point it out to you. Yeah. It's the same thing. So the longer you're able to immerse and stare and immerse and then transfer, whether it's through fire, or through fire and water, my two. preferred methods, right?
The flickering that.
Yeah.
It makes it very
I
easy.
Yeah, I do the same thing, like. Especially once the fire starts, like getting to that nice steady flickering phase.
The embers and the.
And the embers. And you just like trance out, and you stare at the embers and you watch the way the final logs fall. Like me, that's really when it starts to come through.
Yes, absolutely.
We should do that tomorrow when we have our bonfire in the backyard.
It's like, I know some people are not good at it, but running one, so like, I've got the water back. So you can catch occasionally, not always, you can catch the moon.
I bet that is. That would be.
That is,
Yeah.
And the other one, just being on beach with the waves,
Yeah,
yep,
that's
watching the waves.
at night, and it's just like dark and there's a little bit.
Yeah, but it's funny, because the water's always been messy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The water's just crashy, it's always been messy.
Yeah.
Yes, but that allows a lot of moments of clarity, where also little subtle things to finally come through the surface.
yeah,
It's just a little question.
that was really cool.
Anyone else?
Any other
Anything
questions? Anyone else have anything about divination they would like to share? Okay, I think we'll wrap up. Thank you, everybody. This was a beautiful presentation. Good
We'll see everyone next
conversation.
week.